So massive takeover developments have come in from Bloomberg, which is a really good source. Mike Keegan's also said a few things, and we're going to get right into this story. It suggests that Sergeant Ratcliffe is in the lead, but it's the same sources saying Sergeant Ratcliffe was in the lead as last time. And last time that happened, that resulted in a new Qatari bid. So is there any credibility in this news? Should we take it with a pinch of salt? Is it a game for the Qataris to put in a new bid? And there are reports suggesting the Qataris will put in a new bid. Well, we're going to dive first of all into the story, everything that was said, and then I will give my opinion on it. And I'm going to be honest, worst case scenario is the Glazers staying. This Sergeant Ratcliffe new bid would allow the Glazers to stay. It's reportedly in the lead. It's reportedly going to be taken to the board and assessed. But I'm not worried. I'm not worried, and I'm going to get into the news and I'm going to explain why I'm not worried about this and why I still don't think that this bid will be successful from things that I've heard. So basically, Business Bloomberg, they put out a story saying breaking, Sergeant Ratcliffe is leading the race to buy into Manchester United. The British billionaire recently revised an offer which is giving him the edge over Qatar. Obviously, he changed his offer to 25% and said to the Glazers, you can have full control, which makes no sense to me, but we'll discuss that later. It was then said the Glazer family are currently considering Sergeant Ratcliffe's offer for a minority stake, and they see it as more attractive than a Qatari offer for the entire club, and the board is expected to meet in the coming days to discuss this proposal. So there's going to be a meeting to discuss this new Sergeant proposal. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll accept it. It's a new proposal. They're going to discuss it. From what I'm hearing, 4 of the Glazer siblings want full sale, so they might not accept this bid from Sir Jim. Now, it was also said by Bloomberg that discussions with Sergeant Ratcliffe are ongoing and it is uncertain whether this will result in a transaction, although the Glazer family is closer than ever to finding a suitable arrangement. The situation remains open. I'm sure the Glazer family want to get this resolved. I'm sure everyone in the takeover wants to get the whole situation resolved because it's been going on for so long. But like I say, when news comes out on Qataris being close, take it with a pinch of salt. Even though this is a better source, this source said a couple of weeks ago that Qataris were close and nothing's happened. They're now saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's close and nothing's happened. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's put in a new bid. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's put in a revised bid. But as they said, it's uncertain whether this will result in a transaction, they've said. Yes, he's put in a new bid, but he's not giving them more money. He's just reconstructing his offer for a minority. And the only way the Glazers accept this is if they generally think that this will be worth it for them financially. Can they milk more money out of the club in years to come? That's the only way it makes sense to me. But again, they said, look, it's uncertain whether this will result in a transaction. He's put in a new bid. It looks like he's in the lead from what they're hearing, but they're going to have a discussion about this. All six Glazer siblings, the board, they've all got to agree to this. It was said as well that there's still a chance that Sheikh Yassim could raise his bid. And Mike Keegan actually said that talks are still ongoing with Sheikh Yassim regarding the United takeover. And other sources have come out, like Qatari sources, saying the Qatari consortium could still raise their bid for Manchester United. Now, in all honesty, last time we had news coming out that Sir Jim was leading the race and really close. They milked this news for a few days, and then the Qataris put in a new bid and they upped their offer. My genuine belief is it's been quiet for 4 months. The Glazers aren't happy with Qatari's offer, but they've also had minority investments. If they wanted to do a minority investment, 25%, surely they would have done it by now. So I'm not too worried about Sir Jim. But they clearly aren't going to accept Qatar's current offer. Qatar have got to up their offer for the Glazers to accept it. That's got to be the case. But the Qataris are going, well, they're crap on the pitch. We need to spend $1 billion clearing the debt, all this money on the stadium. Why should we up our offer? And personally, I think before I get into the next story, that they know that if they say Sir Jim's really close, they get it out in the media again, that the Qataris could up their bid because they don't want to lose to Sir Jim. The last time they said that Sir Jim was really close, the Qataris upped their bid. They could be doing it again. Now, Ben Jacobs said a few interesting things on this, and then I will dive into my full thoughts and an interesting thread by the Swedish Rumble. So Ben Jacobs said that both Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Yassim remain in talks to buy United, but sources have recently indicated that Ratcliffe has made progress, basically is what he said. He says sources indicate that Ratcliffe has made a strong impression on those running the process, starting with him attending meetings in Manchester, and it's normal. INNEOS would be engaging more because of a different number of things, and it's a more complex situation. So he's saying, Ratcliffe's made a bigger impression because he's engaged more with the situation. I mean, he's changed his bid out 5 times. Ratcliffe's basically on his knees saying to the Glazers, tell me what I need to do to get the club, even if it involves you staying and having full power, do anything to get the club. But Ratcliffe and INNEOS have had more talks because of the structure. It's harder for them to buy out the club. just because of all the different things they do. It said if Ratcliffe proceeds with a smaller starting percentage of 25%, he will also likely choose to meet the Glazers' valuation and pay around 1.85 billion, meaning his club valuation is almost 7.5 billion. This could be enough to get him the foot in the door to eventual control. So Ben Jacobs is suggesting if he does buy 25% of the club, he would likely pay £1.5 billion for 25% of the club, which would come to 6 billion for 100% of the club if he ever got full control, is what they're saying. Ben Jacobs said, compared to this, sources indicate 9-2 Foundation value Man United at about $1 billion less than Ratcliffe does, and Qatar sources stress they will clear the debt and add in commitment and pledged investment. So obviously, at the end of the day, the Glazers are going to sell to whoever's going to offer them the most money. And Ben Jacobs is saying, well, Ratcliffe values the club higher, which is maybe why the Glazers will sell to Ratcliffe, because he values the club higher and they can eventually get more money out of him. However, Qatar technically do match Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid with their pledged investment, but their pledged investment of 1 billion on top of the 5 billion is to say we're going to use that money to clear the debt and improve United. That money doesn't go in the Glazers' pocket. That money goes in improving United. So that 1 billion pledged investment, the Glazers aren't even going to look at. It was also said that Qatar also referred to their offer as a clean transaction for 100% of the club, and they won't entertain any scenario where the Glazers stay. They're not willing to reconstruct their bid to give the Glazers a slight percentage. They want 100% of the club. And sources also indicate that paperwork minus the share percentage has already been produced since the summer, meaning Qatar are now legally and logistically ready if chosen. Although both groups deny competitive tension because of their bids are so different, Ratcliffe's progress could yet provoke 9-2 Foundation, but as it stands, Ratcliffe is growing in confidence he can find a structure and valuation that gets the green light. Is essentially what Ben Jacobs is saying. So essentially, to translate that, it's basically been said that the Qataris did so much in the summer that if they do just up their bid or change the bid, they can be given the green light, it can be done. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a bit more complex to get it done. You have to do this, you have to do that first. But it looks like Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident that he's taking the lead with his new offer for 25% that's been reconstructed. But again, we have to wait and find out. For me, you know, we've been told so many times that Qatar are taking the lead, and we've even been told that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was taking the lead and very close, and nothing's happened. So this could just be one of those reports again where nothing happens in a week's time, nothing happens in 2 weeks' time. And if you want my honest opinion, for me, I think I'm not worried about this, to be honest. If it starts to come out more and more and more, then I would get worried. But at the end of the day, they haven't even had a meeting with the board to discuss whether they're going to accept this bid. From what we're hearing, 4 of the Glazer siblings want the club completely gone. They're still not probably going to get more money. So I don't know if this will be accepted or not. I don't know if this is going to go to the board meeting with everyone and it's going to be turned down. Essentially, the way I see it is they're just confirming that Sir Jim has reconstructed his bid and that Sir Jim is confident this reconstruction of his bid could win. That's how I take the information. I will tell you one thing. The Glazers are going to do whatever they think they're going to get the most money out of, which way they think it's going to benefit them most financially. So maybe they're going to accept Sir Jim's offer for 25% of the club. It makes no sense why Sir Jim is trying to buy 25% of the club, because I don't see why that benefits him. And for me, I don't see why it would benefit the Glazers financially to accept a minority offer. And they've had quite a lot of minority offers that they haven't accepted, which makes me think, why would they accept this one? Why is this different now? But I think the Glazers will ultimately do what they think they're going to get the most money for. And if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is maybe proposing to give them 6 billion and buy out the whole club eventually, maybe that's what they'll do, because that's more money than the Qataris. But up front, they're not getting that much more money. They're going to have to wait time for money. And to be honest, the only way I think the Glazers would stay at the club, which is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's allowing them to do, is if they believe the club is going to be worth more in years to come. And with the amount of money needed to clear the debt, with interest rates, with the off-the-field performances, on-the-field performances, problems at United and state of the stadium, the money that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's giving them is to do the stadium up. But if we don't improve on the pitch, we're still not going to generate much more money. It's such a confusing thing, because I think at the end of the day, the Glazers will pick Sir Jim if they think they can get more money out of him than Qatar. But I think deep down, the Glazers know they'll probably get more money with a full sale, with a full takeover with Qatar. But I think what the Glazers think is Qatar could easily give us 6, 7, 8 billion. They're not budging on 5 billion. I think the Glazers are doing every little game they can to still get more out of Qatar. I think this, like the last time we had reports that Sir Jim was really close, could just be another Glazer game to see if the Qataris put in another bid, because they've done that before. I know the Qataris said they won't budge, but last time we were told that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was really close, the Qataris did up their bid. And the Qataris have shown no interest in upping their bid the last 4 months because we've been awful on the pitch. And why should they? But it's gone quiet and quiet and quiet. And I think the Qataris might get to the point where they realise if they do nothing, they won't get the club. They have to do something. They have to up their bid. And maybe this is a tactic for the Qataris to up their bid, because I just think they've had minority offers before. And surely if that's what they wanted, this would have been done a whole lot sooner. You know, so Jim Ratcliffe is reconstructing his bid for a minority. He's now going for the minority. But who says that all 6 Glazer siblings agree to that? Who says that that's what they want deep down? Could they be using Sir Jim to get a bigger bid out of Qatar because they never got the bid in the race that they want? That's my opinion on it. But also, I don't know why Sir Jim Ratcliffe is changing his 25% of the club. For me, the Glazers need to go. The Glazers can't be given any control. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe's really to give the Glazers control a couple of years and then slowly buy out the club. But the guy claims he's a Man United fan, but he's willing to give the Glazers control. So for me, he's not a Man United fan. But also, is he that desperate to have the club? Is it for ego? Is it for image that he would basically invest 25 for do an investment for 25% of minority stake? When, to be honest, you're going to have no control or power where that goes, and the Glazers could waste it. I got into, I think the Swedish Rumble wrote about INNEOS's offer. He wrote a few things, but one of the interesting things he said is he cannot even imagine with a significant proportion of his imagination the logic behind INNEOS buying 25% of the existing shares. At a valuation that makes sense for the Glazers, i.e. $33 per share, like INNEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying 25%, it makes sense for the Glazers, which is why it could be picked. But I don't know why Sir Jim is doing this. Not only could INNEOS surely directly buy a large chunk of the minority shares directly from Ariel and Lindsay, but its funds and a few other bigger holders for a price of $25 to $26, it's hard to see what the value of those shares are. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to see, you know, if they're buying 25% of shares and it will be of other people, and they're buying these shares for nearly $25, $30 each. What's the value in that for INNEOS? You know, that is one of the big questions. Why is Sir Jim Ratcliffe trying to buy 25%? Is it even worth it for him? I get like Sir Jim Ratcliffe would buy 25% with the term or goal of at least buying 69% all of the Glazers shares in the long road. But as said by Swedish Rumble, these kind of transactions are never normally done this far in advance. You know, he wouldn't be agreeing to buy it now if he's not going to buy the whole club for ages. Now, Swedish Rumble also mentioned a few things like why would the Glazer siblings accept this new offer for 25% from Sir Jim Ratcliffe? This means that they're staying, and this means keeping the financial upside of the ownership at United. There's surely zero upside for them controlling the shares if the price is already agreed upon, but sure, the price could be variable. So again, the deal could be really complex. Does it make sense for them? Could the Glazers want to remain in charge and get paid for 3 to 5 years? That correlates how they have developed the return on the club, and perhaps even giving them a chance to sell to someone else or drag along INNEOS if a third party offers to pay more than INNEOS in 2026. But you really can create such a complex structure. And essentially what he's trying to say here is, does this make sense for INNEOS? Because surely if they buy the club now, and they give 1.5 billion for 25% of shares with the goal of obviously buying out the whole club eventually, or the Glazers stocks eventually, why would they agree at this early when actually in 2 years' time, some could offer them more for their remaining shares because they could be worth more in 2 years' time? You know, why would they pre-agree this? You know, and for INNEOS to do this, surely they want some pre-agreement that they get the whole club. But why would the Glazers agree to giving them the whole club so early when actually they don't know how much more the club could be worth in a few years as well? At the end of the day, he said the clubs need funds. This transaction gives it no funds. But if the Glazers sell 25% of their 69%, they would about get just south of 1 billion that could be reinvested in the club. And the interesting thing is basically he said, we need funds. And if they do sell 25%, that could just be enough. But at the end of the day, he makes a good point. Manchester United need funds. United need a lot of funds. We're in a position where we don't have a lot, to be honest, guys. We really don't. We're broke. We need to spend a lot of money. And this funds could just about do the stadium and all of that. But I think with the situation United's in, the debt, the interest, they do need to do the full sale. And I think they're getting desperate to do the full sale. They know with the current form on the pitch that, you know, it's not helping them. So why would the Qataris up their bid? And I think that they want the Qataris to up their bid. They know that they have the money easily. And I honestly think the Glazers will do anything they can to get the Qataris to up their bid. And Qatari sources have come out and said, you know, they think that all this Sir Jim Ratcliffe news is a game to play them into upping their bid. And sometimes I look at it and I go, you know, All 6 Glazer siblings have to agree to this. Does it benefit Sir Jim for 25%? Not really, but Sir Jim's a moron that's desperate for the club. Do the Glazers know Sir Jim's desperate? Yes. You know, all of those things. Part of me just sits here and goes, is this just a game? Is this just another news report, like all the others that are fake, that's going to be used as a game to see if the Qataris come back with a higher offer? Because I think deep down the Glazers want full sale, and I think deep down they want more money out of Qatar. I think it's all about greed. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to sell to Sir Jim Ratcliffe unless they genuinely believe that they can sell on the club for even more in 2 years, which would mean that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who might be offering $6 billion for 100% of the club, maybe in 3 years' time he has to give them 9 billion. It's all those things as well. For me, why is Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying 25% of the club? Why does he want that? But surely, if he was going to buy the full club eventually, you don't agree that years in advance because you don't know how the market's going to change it. It's so many things, but I think the interesting thing is, I think take everything with a pinch of salt, even though this has come out from good sources, better sources, because I think you just never know with this, the takeover our owners. I think the Glazers will do whatever they think they're going to get more money, and if they think staying and Sir Jim Ratcliffe giving them the money to allow them to stay longer means they could get more money in the future, then they will go with Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid. But I think every takeover story needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, whether it's Sir Jim's side, whether it's Qatar side. A lot of them turn out not to be true. So I'm not going to be super worried with this story because I just don't see how it makes sense for the Glazers to do a minority offer. I don't know why it makes sense for Ratcliffe to do this minority offer. But I don't think anything will happen with Qatar until they're up their bid. So I guess we've got to kind of hope that the Qataris up their bid. Anyway, guys, please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.